Hi, I'm Carly from the UNF Student Wellness Complex, and today we're going to be doing a mixed level yoga class. So we're going to begin class in child's pose. So coming somewhere on the center of your mat, we're going to bring our knees nice and wide, almost to the very edges of our mat. We're going to start to sink our hips toward our heels, and then just gently walking our hands out in front of us. Starting to feel a nice release onto the mat, maybe a nice stretch through the shoulders and the chest. Maybe even rocking the head from side to side on the mat. Giving yourselves a nice little forehead massage. And while we're in child's pose, we're going to start to pay more attention to the breath. So starting to lengthen our inhales and our exhales. Trying to match their lengths if possible. And wherever we are, we're going to start to exhale, so starting to press all the air out of the bottom of the lungs, really making ourselves thirsty for a breath. And together we'll inhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhaling again for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So starting to find our own breath here. Maybe it's a little bit longer or a little bit shorter, like a 4 count or a 6 count, but trying to establish a breath that we can follow through the class. And anytime I give any breathing cues, they're really just suggestions. So it's important to listen to our own bodies, follow our own breath. So while we're in child's pose, we're going to start to walk our hands back about a foot or so. Bringing our knees together a little bit more. We're going to come into our tabletop. So adjusting so our wrists are stacked below our shoulders and our knees are directly below our hips. The middle finger more so points forward, and the eyes of the elbows, that inner crease, points directly to the top of the mat. And here we're going to tuck our tailbone just slightly so we start to engage the low core, a little bit more active. And we're going to cycle through some cat-cows. So on an inhale, we start to drop the belly, look up. Really trying to pull the belly button down toward the mat. Exhale, we start to round the spine. This time trying to pull the belly button all the way up toward the ceiling as much as possible. Inhale, we come back to our cow. So the gaze lifts, the shoulders pull back, the tailbone shoots up and the belly pulls down. Exhale, compressing those abs, rounding through the spine, really tucking the tailbone, pressing away with the shoulders and the hands. Inhale takes us back up with our gaze. And exhale, we start to round all the way through cat. Now we're going to find a nice neutral spine, so that nice flat back we found before. And here we're going to start to lengthen the right foot back and the left arm forward. Maybe that right foot stays down on the mat. Maybe it starts to lift. Toes nice and active, pointing straight down at the mat. On inhale, we'll lift and lengthen a little bit further, really pushing through that left middle finger and the right heel. Exhale, we tuck knee to nose. Inhale, we lengthen back out, trying to find some stability, some length. Exhale, we compress. Inhale, lengthening back out, nice long leg. Exhale, tucking back in, and this time holding for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, drop the knee, drop the hand, drop the belly. Inhale, look up. Exhale, rounding all the way through our cat. Finding that nice neutral spine, setting up for that same cycle on this side. So the left leg starts to stretch back, the right arm starts to stretch forward. Maybe that left foot stays down on the mat and just slides. Or maybe it starts to lift. Either way, the hand is nice and active, the foot is nice and active. Our inhale, we try to lift a little bit more, try to lengthen. Exhale, we compress. Inhale, growing out through the spine. Inhale, tucking back in, really pulling that belly button up like in our cats. Inhaling, lengthening back out. Exhale, tucking back in and holding for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Dropping the palm, dropping the knee, dropping the belly. Inhale, look up. Exhale, pressing away. One more, inhale all the way through our cow. And exhale, really rounding the spine as much as possible here. We'll come back to that nice flat spine, and we'll sort of set up the same way as the last time. So the right foot lengthens back out, the left arm comes back forward. And this time when we start to lift, we inhale, lift a little bit higher, but we exhale, coming out to the sides for nice spinal balance for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Dropping the knee down, this time lifting the left arm way up overhead. Exhale, threading the needle so the left hand comes between the right hand and the right knee. Left shoulder drops, the left cheek can drop. And this right arm can either stay up overhead, it can stay by the face, it can wrap around the low back, whatever feels most comfortable. But just settling in here for a little bit, taking whichever variation with that top arm. Starting to stretch through the side body a bit. Making sure we're still focusing on the breath. So the inhales and exhales are the same length still. It's nice to kind of give ourselves some of those breathing reminders throughout the class. Make sure we're still focused there. Coming back to the breath if we've lost it. And wherever we are, we're going to start to bring that right hand back by the left cheek onto the mat. Really grounding through that hand, pressing away, lifting that left arm way up overhead. We've got a nice visitor here. Hi. Exhale, dropping the palm. Inhale, drop the belly, look up. Exhale, rounding through the spine. Kind of come back to that same tabletop. We come back to it quite a bit, especially at the top of class. And we'll lengthen the left foot back and the right arm forward. Again, maybe that left foot lifts, but on our inhale, we lift and we lengthen. On an exhale, we compress. Inhaling, lengthening out one more time. Having the dog on my mat kind of confused me a bit. We're actually not compressing, we're going to come out to the side for nice spinal balance for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, drop the knee. Inhale, lifting that right arm all the way up. And exhale, we thread the needle on this side so the right arm comes between the left hand and the left knee. And again, either that left hand comes up overhead, or it wraps behind the back, or it comes down by the face. Scamp. But wherever we are, trying to find that same stretch we did on the other side. So evening things out. If you hear my dog in the background at all, I apologize. I am at home, where all of us should be. We all should be social distancing. So, with that being said, we might have a visitor a few more times throughout the class. Wherever we are, we're going to start to plant that left hand back down by the face. We're going to inhale, unthreading our needle, lifting the right arm way up overhead. Exhale, drop the hand, drop the belly, inhale, look up. And exhale, rounding back through our cat. This time we'll tuck our toes, lifting the knees, pressing away with the hands, lifting the hips all the way to our downward dog. If it's our first downward dog of the day, like it is for me, we can go ahead and pedal out the feet, walking our dog, bending one knee at a time. Maybe finding some twist through the hips, through the spine, warming everything up. And just seeing what it feels like to drop the hips from one side to the other. Then we're going to find some stability in our down dog. The gaze is going to come between the hands. And we're going to slowly start to tiptoe toward the top of our mat. Maybe that's big steps, maybe that's little steps, but trying to keep the heels lifted as long as possible, bending the knees as much as necessary. We'll come into a nice gentle forward fold. So the knees are nice and soft here. We're going to bend the knees enough so that our chest falls on the top of the legs. And we're really not feeling the stretch through our hamstrings anymore. And then from here, with our either fingertips on the mat or flat palms, we're going to gently try to lengthen the legs, keeping that engagement between the abdomen and the thighs as long as possible. And when we feel them start to separate, we'll go ahead and stop there. So for me, it's about here. We're just going to take a couple deep breaths. One more deep breath here. Big inhale. And exhale. This time our inhale is going to take us all the way up overhead. Reaching for the sky, maybe bending back just slightly. And our exhale will take us to our Tadasana, our mountain pose. So in our mountain pose, we kind of have two options with our feet. We can either toe heel them so the big toes touch, or we can have them about hips width distance. I prefer hips width distance. It's about the space of two fists side by side. So while we're here, there are a few cues we like to kind of check in on, a few body positioning, things to keep in mind, some alignments. So while our toes, all 10 toes are nice and planted, nice and wide, we try to lift up just slightly on the inner arches, so we're more so on the outsides of our feet, not so much that we're on the very outer edges, but just a light adjustment. And then we can feel with both our hands, one on our tummy, one on our low back, the difference between when we're just standing as normal versus when we start to slightly tuck the tailbone, slightly bend the knees, so the core starts to engage. The shoulders pull back and down, and the palms face forward. And the chin is just nice and parallel with the mat, maybe slightly tipped down. And we're nice and active here. It's really not as much of a resting posture as we tend to think. The fingers are nice and active, a lot of power toward the ground, through the feet, through the hands. Just settling in, really feeling ourselves root down through our feet, but growing through the top of our spine, crown of the head. And then on an inhale, we'll look up, reach up. Exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, we'll halfway lift, so the palms come to the shins. Shoulders pull back, but the chest pulls down. Exhale, we'll fold a little bit deeper, nice soft knees. Bending until we can plant the palms, walk, step, or hop into our high plank. We'll shift the weight forward on the toes and down through our chaturanga. Inhale takes us to up dog, top of the feet. Exhale, tuck the toes, pressing away, downward facing dog. And here we're going to start to bend our knees really low to the mat, a nice hover. The gaze comes between the hands. Seeing if we can hop nice and quiet all the way into our forward fold. Inhaling, halfway lift. Exhale, folding a bit deeper. Seeing if our hamstrings are warming up for us yet. Inhale will take us all the way up overhead. And exhale to our Tadasana. So again, anytime we come back to our mountain pose, we like to take those cues, kind of check in with ourselves, check in with our feet, our tailbone, our shoulders, our hands, all the good stuff. And we also like to check in with our breath here, finding it if we've started to lose it at all. One more big inhale, and exhale. This time we inhale, arms come up, reach up. Exhale, bend low, reach high, Utkatasana, nice awkward seat, nice chair pose. So here we like to find an external rotation of the thighs. It's almost like the inner thighs are shooting up and the outer thighs are trying to pull down. The chest lifts, the spine is nice and long, but we can still see our toes over our knees. Inhale, lifting the arms, the chest. Exhale, squatting a little bit deeper. One more inhale here. And exhale to our forward fold. Inhale, flat back, half lift. Exhale, planting the palms, walk, step, or hop into our high plank. Down through our chaturanga. Inhale takes us to up dog. And exhale presses us back to our down dog. Again, settling in here, adjusting as necessary till we find a nice comfortable spot. We're going to start to lift the right foot nice and high. Bending into that knee, opening the hip out to the right side so we start to yawn the hip a bit. We start to square the hip back off, lengthening the foot nice and long. Inhale, growing through that foot a little bit more. Exhale, we tuck knee to nose. Inhaling, we lengthen. Exhale, right knee comes to right elbow. Inhaling, lengthening back out. Exhale, right knee comes to left elbow, this time little twist. Inhaling, lengthen. One more inhale, stepping all the way between the hands so the right foot finds that right thumb. And our inhale takes us up to our crescent lunge. Exhale, we drop the palms, walk, step, or hop. Our right foot back into our downward dog. We're going to skip the vinyasa this time. So that vinyasa is cycling through our chaturanga and our up dog. We're going to start to lift our left leg. It's a nice three-legged dog. Bending the knee, yawning the hip out to the side. Squaring the hip back off, lengthening the foot back out. Big inhale, lengthen through that left heel. Exhale, we tuck knee to nose. Inhaling, lengthen. Exhale, left knee comes to left elbow. Inhale, growing back out. Exhale, left knee comes to right elbow, little twist. Inhaling, lengthen. Exhale, left foot comes to the left thumb. So big step forward, and our inhale takes us up. My hair is all kinds of in my face today. Exhale, planting the palms, stepping back to our three-legged dog. Exhale, dropping that foot back down. We'll drop the knees nice and wide here, dropping the hips back to the heels into our child's pose. Just giving our arms a bit of a break. Then we'll start to tuck the toes under, lifting the hips, lifting the heels back to our downward dog. Dropping the knees to a nice hover, gaze comes between the hands. Walk, step, or hop. Back into our forward fold. Inhaling, we'll half lift. Exhale, folding a little bit deeper. Inhale, bend low, reach high, Utkatasana, our nice awkward seat. Inhale, we lift. Exhale, we squat a bit deeper. Inhale takes us all the way up. And exhale, back to our mountain. Checking in with the body, checking in with the breath. Maybe taking the opportunity to close the eyes. Slowing that breath back down if it's starting to pick up. Still a nice active mountain here though. And gently we'll start to open the eyes. We'll start to ground into the left foot with a bit more intention. Bring the hands onto the hips with that left foot nice and active. We're going to start to pick the right toes up, point them straight back toward our face. And trying to keep our legs nice and straight, we're just going to lift the right foot up off the ground, just an inch or two, really pulling that leg into the hip. We're going to keep the right foot nice and parallel to the ground. We're going to start to bend the knee, so we really have to compensate by bringing the leg forward so that foot stays nice and parallel with the ground as we slowly lift up, trying to really tuck the tailbone, really engaging the low core. Seeing if we can lift it just a tiny bit more. And then we're going to reach down, grabbing the right ankle, coming into our tree pose. So we can either use our tree pose, our right foot as a little bit of a kickstand by our ankle. We can come up by our calf. My balance is not quite here today. Or we can come all the way up by the inner thigh. Or we can even do a half lotus variation. But if our foot wants to rest on our knee, we'll go ahead and drop it down a little bit further, because we never really want that pressure on our knees. And we'll bring our hands to heart center. We're trying to pull the right knee back and the right hip forward. So we're really trying to flatten ourselves out. Shoulders pull back and down. Trying to find a drishti, so something in front of us for our gaze to fall on, something still to help with our balance. And then with a lot of control, trying to keep the right foot lifted, we're going to release our tree, crossing the right ankle over the left knee, bending into that left knee, coming into a nice figure four, palms open in front of us like there's a book in our hands. Seeing if we can squat a little bit deeper, starting to feel the stretch through the back of the legs and the engagement through the left leg. One more inhale. Exhale, drop the palms or the fingertips. We come into a nice gentle forward fold. Maybe straighten the leg, maybe the leg stays really bent. We're going to either walk the foot back or the hands forward. I'm going to walk my hands forward, even though that takes me off the mat a little bit. About a foot, so there's about a foot and a half between our foot and our hands, and we're slowly going to drop the right knee between the hands, lengthening that left leg back. Again, I'm at the very top of my mat. I'm going to scoot forward a bit, but we come into our pigeon. That left foot stays nice and straight. So maybe glancing back, making sure it is. And the right foot can either stay in by the left hip, or it can start to come up by the left hand. But here we're really trying to make sure our hips are nice and level, so one's not sinking onto the mat more than the other. Really nice and level. And once we find that nice level position, we can start to sink deeper into the stretch. So maybe walking the hands forward as much as we'd like. Or if we need a little bit less of a stretch, maybe our hands are on some blocks here, if we have blocks. Or if this is even still too intense of a stretch and we're wanting something more gentle, we can come onto our back. And with our knees bent, we cross the right ankle over the left knee. The hands come between the legs and grasp onto the back of the left thigh. And we can use our hands to pull our left leg forward and stretch our pigeon on our back. I'm going to stay on my leg. I'm going to stay forward rather than on my back. Just giving our hips some time to open. They tend to be one of the harder things to open up, so we like to give them some time. And wherever we are, we're going to start to come back up to long arms. We're going to start to tuck the left toes under, lifting that left knee, really engaging through both hands and that left foot. We're going to see if we can lift our right leg up off the mat, inhaling, lengthening it back out. So if we're doing our pigeon on our back, this is a good place to meet us. We're going to tuck the knee deep into the chest, see if we can step the right foot to the right hand, Inhaling, arms come up. Exhale, warrior two, so we rotate that back foot. Arms come out to the sides. The gaze comes over that right middle finger. Really strong posture here. And that back foot, the back heel and the right heel are about level, so they're on the nice same plane. We're going to keep the bottom half of the body completely still. Nothing's going to change there. But we're going to start to pull over our right side, so pulling that that right middle finger forward. We're going to drop our right elbow down. Left arm comes up overhead and the gaze follows. So we find our side angle. One more inhale. And exhale. This time inhale, windmilling the arms back, bottom half of the body stays the same, but the left palm finds the back of the left leg, right arm reaches up overhead to our reverse warrior. This time we're going to bring our right hand behind us, clasping the hands at our low back. Inhale, we drop the hands, reaching them down that left leg, chest lifts forward, and then exhale, dropping the chest onto the inside of that right knee. Arms can start to lift up if we want a bit more of a shoulder stretch. And we find our humble warrior this time. It's a lot of warriors here. One more breath. And exhale, dropping the palms, coming back into our crescent lunge, so coming onto those left toes. Bending the left knee a little bit, trying to see if we can hop all the way into a standing split. That right leg bending as much as we'd like. Not really going for height with that leg. Just going for some balance. And we're going to slowly start to bring the feet back together onto the mat. So dropping that left foot down, coming into our forward fold. Inhaling, we half lift. Exhale, folding a bit deeper. One more, inhale, half lift. And exhale, all the way down. Inhale takes us all the way up toward the sky. And exhale to our Tadasana. So we start to set up for the same thing on the other leg. This time we really ground into that right foot. With our hands on our hips, we'll start to engage the left toes, so the toes start to point toward the face. And then we just lift the leg into the hip. So we're at about an inch or two hover above the mat. And again, we'll keep that left foot nice and level as we slowly start to bring the knee forward and up. Seeing if we can tuck the tailbone a little bit more, lifting that knee a little bit higher. And then we'll start to reach down for our ankle and finding our tree pose. So I use my hand to help me get there. We'll bring the hands into heart center, starting to pull that left knee back and the left hip forward. And finding our drishti once more, that gaze point in front of us, something still to look at. Helps with our stability. And then with control, we're going to release our foot, keeping it at a nice hover, a nice lift. We're going to cross the left ankle over the right knee, bending into that right knee, opening the palms like there's a book in front of us. So we find our figure four. Squatting as low as we'd like, so we start to feel that stretch in the left leg and that engagement, that warmth in the right. One more big breath here. And exhale, we drop the palms or the fingertips. We start to lengthen that right leg a little bit as we come into a figure four fold. And then bending back into that right leg, we're going to walk our hands out a little bit more in front of us, or that right foot back. I think it's easier to walk the hands than the foot. And we're going to start to drop the left knee between the hands, lengthening the right leg back. Again, I underestimated. I'm at the very top of my mat. But we're going to keep that right foot nice and straight, maybe glancing back to make sure it is. Again, either choosing to have our left ankle by our right hip or by our right hand, whichever feels most comfortable. Checking in, making sure the hips are nice and level. And then we start to sink forward. Again, this is a good opportunity to take pigeon on our back if that's more comfortable. Giving our hips the time to warm up, to open up. Sinking as far into the hips as we'd like. And wherever we are, we'll start coming back to long arms. Going to tuck the toes under, lifting that right knee, really engaging through the hands, and that right foot trying to lift the left foot up, all the way back to our three-legged dog, meeting us there if we chose pigeon on our back. And we'll start to tuck the knee deep into the chest, stepping the left foot to the left thumb, and our inhale takes us to our crescent lunge. Exhale, we'll drop the right knee or the right foot back down, the right heel, opening out to the sides. The gaze is over that left middle finger this time. Nice strong warrior two. And with the bottom half of our body nice and still, we'll start to pull forward on that left middle finger, dropping the left elbow to the left knee. Inhaling, right arm starts to sweep up overhead. So here we want to make sure we're not collapsing into our left side. The shoulder is still nice and active. One more big inhale. And exhale. This time inhale, sweeping the arms back. So the right palm finds the right thigh. Left arm sweeps up overhead, finding the reverse warrior. One more breath. And exhale. Bringing the arms behind our low back, clasping the fingers the other way. It's the way that likely feels a bit more awkward. We'll start to slide the hands down that back leg. And exhale, dropping the chest onto the inside of that left knee, finding our humble warrior, maybe lifting the arms up. We'll start to drop the hands, rotating that back foot so we're onto the toes again. We'll bend into the right knee, hopping the foot forward. Words are hard today. Into our standing split. And exhale into our forward fold, nice and slow. Bring that right foot back down. Inhale, we'll half lift. Exhale, folding a bit deeper. Inhale, one more half lift. And exhale, bending all the way down. We'll start to bend our knees really low here. Slowly starting to toe heel our feet apart. Dropping the hips all the way down. We come into a nice yogi squat. So if our feet aren't quite flat or there's something kind of uncomfortable with our feet, maybe widening our stance a bit. And then with our hands either on the mat for some support our hands at heart center. Our elbows are going to come to the insides of our knees, and we're going to start to pull our knees open. And if our hands are in prayer, the knuckles of the thumb meet the breastbone, so that's sternum. Nice lifted chest. Gaze straight ahead. We're going to bring our hands onto the mat nice and wide. We're going to start to drop the left shoulder to the left knee, starting to wrap the left arm around the front of the leg, and the right arm will come behind the back. Maybe the hands meet and we find a bind. Maybe they don't and they're kind of out here. This is a good place to have a strap between our hands. But we find a little bit of a bind, so we find a little twist, just for a couple breaths. Big inhale and release. Maybe wiggle it out a little bit. And we'll start to drop the right shoulder to the right knee, wrapping that right arm in front of the right knee, the right leg. The left arm comes behind the small of the back. Maybe the hands clasp, maybe they don't. Maybe we're still here, that's fine too. But the chest stays nice and lifted. One more inhale and release. We're going to bring our hands behind our hips, helping to lower ourselves onto the mat, lower our seat down. And we're going to bring our feet together, starting to drop the knees nice and wide. The bottoms of the feet come together. We come into a butterfly. Adjusting our seat, I kind of like to make sure there's nothing left under our seat, so we're nice and connected to the earth, to the mat. And then we'll start to open the bottoms of our feet like books. Again, a lot of book references today. Seeing how much we can flatten the bottoms of the feet. We're not quite as far forward or as close to our body as we can possibly go. Maybe just a little bit beyond that, so we have some room to play. And trying to keep the bottoms of the feet flat and pointing up as much as possible. We'll start to walk the hands forward. Naturally, the feet will start to come together. When we start to feel the stretch more in our hips, we can let the bottoms of the feet start to find themselves, find each other a bit more, and just releasing. If this is uncomfortable, always having the option to stay closer to the body, or having knees or pillows propping the having blocks or pillows propped up under the knees. But just opening the hips, the inner thighs. Start to walk the hands back toward the body. Bring the knees back up, allowing the soles of the feet to find the mat again. With our hands behind us, we're going to find our seat, our cushion at the very center of the mat. We're going to lower our back down onto the ground. Lifting our shoulders up and spreading them nice and wide so there's nice engagement with the mat. We're going to tuck the knees into the chest. And bringing them a little bit wider, we're going to reach the hands between the knees, grabbing onto the outsides of the feet, coming into our happy baby. So maybe we rock a little bit here. This is really yogi's choice. Maybe the feet are a little bit lower, maybe they're a bit higher, or a bit wider or narrower. But finding something that feels comfortable, finding something that feels good, maybe finding some stability or rolling out the spine like I am. And then if we're we're rocking, we'll find some stability. We'll start to release the left foot down onto the mat, either nice and bent, or we can start to straighten it. We'll grab the outside of the right foot with the left hand, starting to drop it over to the left side, bringing the left knee up a little bit, and opening the right arm out to the right side so we find a nice spinal twist, seeing if we can straighten the legs here. The gaze falls over that right arm. We'll start to undo our twist, coming back to center, coming back into our happy baby, so arms come between the knees, grasping onto the either edge of the feet, and just rocking out the spine. And this time when we find stability, we'll release the right foot down, reaching for the outside of the left foot with the right hand, starting to open that left arm out to the left side, and bringing the left foot to the right side, and starting to straighten the legs. Maybe the legs stay bent, but then the gaze starts to fall over the left hand. Start to undo our twist, onto our spine again, but this time instead of happy baby, we're going to wrap our arms around our shins. So reaching for opposite elbows, we tuck the forehead into the knees as much as possible, really squeezing every muscle in the fingers and the toes and the face, trying to lift our spine as much as possible. So we're resting on just a tiny bit of our back, and holding for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, releasing all the way down onto the mat, straightening the arms out nice and wide, maybe about 30 degrees on either side of our body, and slowly starting to lengthen the legs out, trying to keep nice engagement between the low back and the mat. And if our low back has any discomfort, we can bend our knees. We can even put some blocks or a pillow under our feet. But listening to our body here. And we'll start to close our eyes, releasing the breath, coming into our corpse pose, our Shavasana. With each exhale, starting to feel the body sink deeper into the mat, and starting to feel the muscles release even more. Allowing the fingers to gently curl in, and the chin to slightly tuck so the neck is nice and long. And we'll try to find absolute stillness here. So it's really difficult to try not to twitch or move, not even a single finger. We just surrender ourselves to the breath, to the mat, trying to keep all of our focus on our breathing. And if we find our mind starting to wander, just making note of it, and then dismissing it and coming back to the breath. gently we'll start to deepen the breaths. Coming back into the body, feeling the rise and fall of the chest. Maybe finding some small movements of the fingers, of the toes. Or rocking the head from side to side. Rocking yes and no. And then with our eyes still closed, we'll lift our right arm onto the mat by our right ear. And we'll start to roll over onto our right side using the right bicep as a pillow for the head. With our eyes still closed and using our hands as support, slowly start to lift ourselves to a seat. Whatever seat feels comfortable, facing whatever part of the room or the mat feels comfortable. And allowing the eyes to stay closed a little bit longer. And letting the head fall deep into the chest. And in our own time, whenever we're ready, starting to open the eyes nice and gentle. We'll bring our hands into prayer. So the knuckles of the thumb meet the third eye. Space between the brows. And take a deep breath here. Big inhale. And exhale. Namaste. Thank you guys for practicing with me today and practicing at home, staying healthy, and bearing with me with all of the little bumps and adjustments as we all get used to life at home. So my dog, of course, made a little bit of a appearance. I think for the most part he was just out of frame, and I certainly had plenty of my own vocal stumbles, but that's just part of practice. It's just part of daily life. So go forth, be healthy, wash your hands, and spread joy. Try to stay positive.